Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all so much for your very, very kind association. So we'll start with our Bhakti Vaibhav session. Let's offer our Mangalacharan prayers and then we'll go ahead with the session. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namaha Pankajanaಭಾಯ Namaha Pankajamaline Namaha Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangriye Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालय कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपः तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य ईश्वर Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you all so much. 1 minute, I'm getting some messages. Shankari Kaur Mataji, I'll get back to you soon. Okay,
Sure, Mataji.
we will start with our not feeling well today, but somehow by Krishna's mercy, we'll try to cope up with the session. So we discussed in the previous chapter mostly the 6 questions that were asked by the sages, 4 were answered. That how the bhakti is the process, that is the essence, and it is for the highest welfare. And then Sutta Goswami also talks about the 3 Purusha avatars. And in this second chapter, he actually gives the detail about all these Purusha avatars, that is Karanodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So after explaining all these Purusha avatars, then we saw that how Sutta Goswami describes the different incarnations, that is the Leela avatars. So he also answered question number 5. So out of 6, 5 questions were answered by Sutta Goswami. And in the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, he talked about all the incarnations, whether it is Yoga Avatara, Leela Avatara, and Shaktavesha Avatara, or Manvantara Avatara, or the 3, what do you say, like Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, like, what do you say, Guna Avataras. So he talked about all of them. And after talking about these different avatars, then he also talks about the different vibhutis. And after describing that, he talked about the Paribhasha Sutra of this Srimad Bhagavatam. So, what is the Paribhasha Sutra? Anyone wants to say?
Nastu Bhagavan Swayam.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, Mataji, that verse says Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam.
Say the entire verse if you know.
Mataji, I couldn't memorize.
No problem. Anybody else? Yes, Indulekha Mataji, say the entire verse.
Mataji, I'll try, Mataji.
Yeah.
Ete chamsa kalapumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Loke Mridayanti Yuge Yuge.
Excellent. So that is the Paribhasha Sutra where the Amsha, the Kalaha, is being told by Sutta Goswami, but he said, Tu, Krishna's tu, among all those, but Krishna is the Swayam Bhagavan. And we saw that how Krishna was also regarded as avatar, because Prabhupada mentions what is avatar? Avatar is one who descends. So anyone who descends from the spiritual world is avatar. So in that sense, yes, Krishna is also avatar because he is also coming via through the doorway of Kshirodakshai Vishnu. But because he is that original candle, because of which all other candles are burned. So he is avatari. So therefore, Sutta Goswami mentions that Ete chamsa kalapamsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. He is the Swayam Bhagavan. And for what purpose he comes? Indra Ari. Ari means the enemies. Because they are that Indra is agitated because of his enemies. So just to relieve him and to relieve the problems of this world and of course to protect Indra, Krishna comes in every yuga, Medyanti Yuge Yuge. So after this, in this Falashruti, in this Paribhasha Sutra, then it is being mentioned that how Krishna's amshas and Krishna's qualities all have been described. So what we will do, we'll take turns from all the devotees. Just it will be a quick recap that what are the three stages or categories where the entire incarnations of of Supreme Lord Krishna can be categorized. Anyone wants to say on the lower level? Yes, Lalita Mataji, go ahead. No. I'm not talking about the Purusha avatars. I'm saying what are the three kinds of categories in that verse where it says Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsam. Yes, Divyangi Lalita Mataji.
The lowest is Vibhuti.
Uh,
Above that is Kala or Avesha.
Avesha, and then?
Above that is Amsha.
Very good. So first of all, in the lower level, we have Vibhutis. And on that, we have kalas, and then we have amshas. So amshas are also in English, you can say they are known as plenary portions. Okay, sometimes this is very confusing because Prabhupada translates as plenary portions and portions of the plenary portions. So the direct plenary portions of Swayam Bhagavan Krishna are known as the amshas of the Supreme Lord. They may have all the qualities of Krishna, but they may not exhibit those qualities when they come to this material world to perform certain leela. Okay, they have the capability, they have the full potency of all the Shodasha Kalam. Remember, we read like Krishna, but because they are direct amshas of Krishna, but they do not exhibit. For example, Lord Narsimhadev, Lord Varahadev, Vamanadev, they are what? They are amshas of the Supreme Lord. They are plenary portions, but when they come for specific purpose. So they may not exhibit all Sola Kalas, all the Shodasha Kalam, but they have that in full potency. And then comes kalas. Kalas are the portions of those plenary portions, also known as Mataji said, is Avesha, or you can say Shaktavesha avatars. So they are always Jiva Tattvas. So Amshas are always Vishnu Tattvas, whereas the Kalas or the portions of the plenary portions of the Supreme Lord, they are Jiva Tattvas. Like example, we have Narada Muni, Kumaras, or Prithu Maharaj. They are all Shakti Avesha avatars, or they can say Avesha avatars. And then comes Vibhutis. So vibhutis, they are on a very, very lower level. And Krishna, he says that anything magnificent we see in this world is actually coming from the opulence of the Supreme Lord. If we see any beautiful girl, we know that beauty is some fragmental portion of that supreme beauty that Krishna possesses. So Vibhutis, we know Krishna himself in 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he mentions that among Adityas I am Vishnu, among Maruts I am Marichi, among demigods I am Indra, among stars I am Moon, among Yakshas I am Kovera, or among priests I am Brahaspati, among demons I am Prahlad. So this way he mentions his Vibhuti. So these are all Vibhutis of Krishna. Okay, and then it is also was explained that it's only Krishna who has 64 qualities. 100% of all is there in Krishna. 100%. Okay, and that is what is known as his 64 qualities that Krishna possesses. And rest of his amshas, you can say, they are Vishnu Tattvas. Okay, so they are also having all the Shodasha Kalam, but they lack in 4 qualities. So they have how much? How much percentage they have?
93%.
Very good. They have 93%. So if you calculate 93 percentage of 64, you will come around 60 qualities, 15, 9 something. Okay, so 60 qualities is what Vishnu Tattvas possess. Krishna has 64 qualities. Vishnu Tattvas or Narayan or all these plenary portions, you can say, the amshas of the Supreme Lord, they have 93% of those 64 qualities, which approximately comes around 60 qualities. And then comes Lord Shiva. How much Lord Shiva has?
84.
84%. And 84% of 64 comes around 54, around. So it has been explained that Lord Shiva possesses 54 qualities. Krishna 64, Narayan and all the Vishnu Tattvas 60 qualities, and the Shiva Tattvas. Now, whether that Shiva Tattva means around, whether it can be Sadashiv or the Rudras or the Lord Shiva who is been in charge of Tamoguna, who is in charge of annihilation, all the Shiva Tattvas, they are actually having this 84% of Krishna's qualities, and that is around 54 qualities. And finally comes the jivas, the self-realized jivas, and how much they have?
78.
78%, and that 78% is 50 qualities. And Prabhupada explains that out of 64 qualities, the 50 qualities are the qualities that the jivas can possess. But because the jivas are conditioned, they don't possess all these 50 qualities in full. It's only Lord Brahma, of course, who is our Sampradaya Acharya, because we belong to Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So he is the one who has all the 50 qualities in full. Okay, but rest of the jivas, they have these 50 qualities, which is 78% of 64 qualities that Krishna has, but in a very minute form. Okay, so you should know, you should remember this. And what 4 qualities that Krishna has extra than Narayan or Vishnu Tattvas are his Leela Madhuri, his Venu Madhuri, his Rupa Madhuri, and his Bhakta Madhuri. That is his Leelas and his Venu, that is his flute, and then his beauty, Rupa, and then his Bhakta, that is his Parshads or his devotees. These are the 4 qualities that are exclusively for Krishna. All the Vishnu Tattvas, all his amshas also do not possess these 4 qualities. So we should know this. In percentage wise also it's good to know, and in number of qualities also it's good to know. Okay, so then moving ahead, then our Sutta
Mataji,
Goswami.
about Vibhuti.
Go ahead.
Vibhuti, how many percentage, Mataji?
Hmm?
Vibhuti, the last one. After Jiva, we have Shiva, you said.
No. I said first is Krishna, 64 qualities, then Vishnu Tattvas or Narayan, that is 93%, that is roughly around 60 qualities. Then I talked about Lord Shiva, who has 84% of those 64 qualities, which is around 54 qualities. And finally, 78% is possessed by the Jivas. But Jivas do not possess. 78% of 64 comes around roughly 50 qualities. The Jivas can have those 50 qualities, but not in full. It's only
Yes,
Brahma
Mataji.
who has those 50
Jiva is
qualities.
Kala, no, Mataji. Jiva, you said is Kala.
Yes, they are the
No, I
Kala.
was asking about Vibhuti, Mataji. Any percentage for Vibhuti
No,
also?
not percentage of Vibhuti is not mentioned, but yes, because it's Krishna's Vibhuti, because it's not just the human beings or jivas. Krishna's Vibhuti is like, you can say, he says that among immovable, I am Himalayas, or I am Meru. Among all those mountains, I am Himalayas. Among immovable objects, I am Meru. So, this way, it's just the Krishna's opulence. His magnificence is seen in this material world, and that is what is Vibhutis. Okay. So
Thank
now, thank you. After describing this, then our Sutta Goswami says that I have told you so many incarnations, and I've told you about the Vibhutis, I've told you about the Paribhasha Sutra. So the Falashruti is very important, that one should recite these verses in order to get relief from all kind of miseries. Now then the question comes that somehow, because we already did that verse also, let me share my screen. And that verse, that is 30th verse, also Mataji covered last time. And this is our Virat Purusha. So how come this thing came into Virat Purusha? Like he was talking about all the beautiful qualities and the avatars of the Supreme Lord. How come this universal form is being presented suddenly? It was a really a strange shift that Sutta Goswami made, but it is to remember, considering the audience. So we should present, even when while giving classes, is also it is told to us that when we give any kind of classes, we should be very well aware of the audience whom we are speaking to. If they are very neophyte, if they have just beginners in Krishna consciousness, and you talk about creation aspect or all the Purusha avatars, it is very difficult for them to digest. So we have to know the audience. And Sutta Goswami was very, very sensitive in this matter. He said, no, I should treat my audience. And we know that among all those 88,000 of the rishis that were assembled in Nemi Sharanya, actually, some of them were Jnana yogis, some were Ashtanga yogis. They were all not Bhakta yogis, right? So, to address them, he suddenly brought into this conclusion of Virat Purusha, that how these sages, all these Ashtanga yogis, they how bring it this universal form of the Supreme Lord. So, where is my screen? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mataji, we can.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So then he says that this conception of Virat, universal form of the Lord, as appearing in the material world is imaginary. Some devotees, they just take up that the Supreme Lord form is imaginary. So again, we have to understand that it's not the Supreme Lord form is imaginary, because any form of the Supreme Lord cannot be imagination. So what is imaginary is the conception that the yogis have in their mind. And why do they have all this in their mind? Because they cannot perceive unless and until they see something or they have perceived something in their mind. So through their gross, either they are able to see, or through their subtle mind or intelligence, they are able to perceive something. So for them, so they are known as neophytes, or as Prabhupada says, with a poor fund of knowledge, because they are into their own speculation. So for them also, Bhagavatam is giving the Bhagavatam is actually welcoming them also. That even if you have that conception, come and study Srimad Bhagavatam. You will get to know about that Virat Purusha, and finally your thought process, your conception will also be defeated, because Bhagavatam doesn't agree to any Kaitava Dharma. Okay, that was rejected in the very Mangalacharan verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. But if somebody is really into all these conceptions of Virat Purusha, or posing any material or subtle form on the Supreme Lord, for them also Srimad Bhagavatam is opened. And Bhagavatam is opening her own arms to embrace such people, so that they can also be uplifted and come to the right conclusion. So therefore, Prabhupada, he says that this conception of the Virat universal form of the Lord as appearing in the material form is imaginary, and it is enabled to less intelligent to adjust the idea of having Lord's form. But factually, Lord has no form. Therefore, he says, Arupasya. No form means no material form. He has form. He has a very beautiful form, but he has spiritual form. He is Chidatmana. He is transcendental. You cannot put something material, impose something material on the Supreme Lord, and then you say that the Supreme Lord also has a material form. That conception itself is imaginary. It is wrong also. So let's move ahead with our 31st verse. Okay, so 31st verse, we will see what Krishna has to say. So 30th verse we have done. Now in 31st verse, Krishna says, Yatha nabhasi megha redun va parthivo nile evam drashtari drashtavyam aropitam abhuddhidhi. So beautifully Suta Goswami is saying that who have this imaginary conception. Yes, he's saying those people who wants to see Drishtari, who are the seer, and they are not the internal seer. They want to see something gross. And Drishtavyam means that for the purpose of seeing, these seers, what they do, Aropitam. They do arop. वो भगवान इस पे भी आरोप लगा देते हैं. They imply that the Supreme Lord also has some form. And abuddhidhi, and they are very less intelligent, or as in Prabhupada's language, with a poor fund of knowledge. So they are abuddhibhi, they are very less intelligent, and because they cannot perceive the Supreme Lord form, they want to perceive it in their gross sense, and that is why they put arop, they imply that the Supreme Lord also has this form. And from that conception, this conception of Virat Purusha came into picture, which is, he's saying that this conception is imaginary. And then Prabhupada gives this example, Yatha Nabhasi, just like Nabha, in the sky, there are clouds. Okay, so sky is invisible. And then he says, Renuva Parthivo Nile. Anila means air. Air is also you cannot see. You can perceive air, but you cannot see air through your gross senses. Similarly, you cannot see sky. But with the presence of clouds, what do you see? That you see that clouds are there in the sky. And just like air is not visible, but if the air carries dust, and imagine the dusty wind is blowing, then you, with the dust attached to that air, you think that the air is blowing. So therefore, all these conceptions, These are the conceptions that people who are abuddhidhi, they put for the Supreme Lord also. Okay, so we'll see in detail. Anybody wants to read the translation? Go ahead.
Clouds and dust are carried by the air, but less intelligent persons say that the sky is cloudy and the air is dirty. Similarly, they also implant material bodily conceptions on the spirit itself.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So this is what is imposing material conception on the Supreme Lord also. Like in the common language, we say, oh, the sun is covered with a cloud. But do you think that there is anything that can cover the sun? No. Then what the clouds are covering? Clouds are covering our vision to see the sun shining. So the sun itself, it cannot be covered by something. But our vision is covered by the clouds, because of which we are not able to see sun. And then we impose that the sun is covered by the clouds. So similarly, he is giving this analogy. Yathana bhasi meghago renu va parthivo nile. Parthiva means the muddiness or the dust that the air carries. We all know the air doesn't have its own odor or its own, it's invisible. Air carries the aroma on which the air blows. Like if the air is blowing over beautiful garden, then naturally it will carry the aroma of the garden. And if the air is on the sewage, then it will be carrying the bad odor of the sewage. So sky and air, they both are invisible. But when we see the sky, because the presence of clouds, we say the sky is very cloudy, because the clouds are there on the sky. And similarly, we attribute dust also to air and we say it's very dusty. So this is what we start doing it on the Supreme Lord also. So Prabhupada, he says, confirmed herein that with our material eyes and senses, we cannot see the Lord who is all spirit. So someone who is spiritual, how can we conceive or perceive him through material senses? Definitely not. Even Rupa Goswami says in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Atha Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahanyam indriyam. That Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's name, qualities, form, you cannot perceive them. Indriyam grahanam, apne indriyon se means through your senses, you cannot accept. Grahan means to accept. You cannot perceive it. Then how can it be perceived? He says, Sevan mukha hi jivvado sevam eva spurtiyada. That when you do devotional service, and that devotional service that starts with your jivha, with your tongue. When you chant Krishna's holy name, when you take Krishna prasadam, then swayameva spuratiyada, then all these form of the Supreme Lord, they will self-manifest. The qualities, the names, the form of the Supreme Lord, it will manifest. So then Prabhupada, he's saying, see what is our eligibility. We cannot even detect the spiritual spark that is there in our material body. How many of us can really see Paramatma in the heart? Forget about seeing Paramatma in other living entities. We are not able to see Paramatma in our own heart. So, and not only that, our spiritual spark, the soul that is present, that also we cannot perceive. We look to the outward covering of the body or subtle mind of the living being, but we cannot see the spiritual spark within the body. Forget about the supreme soul. Even the soul also we cannot see in others' body. When we see their body, then through their body we identify that this is such and such person. Otherwise, we should have this understanding that everybody is a soul and everybody has a super soul. But we cannot see that one spiritual spark. And here we are talking about understanding the Supreme Lord with our mundane gross senses, and that too contaminated senses. It is not possible. So what Prabhupada is saying, so we have to accept the living being's presence by the presence of the gross body. Similarly, those who want to see the Lord with their present eyes, with their material senses, they are advised to meditate on the gigantic feature called Virat Roop. That is what is there, putting arop on the Supreme Lord, that he also has that material form. Prabhupada gives another very beautiful analogy. For instance, when a particular gentleman goes in his car, suppose if the president goes out in his particular car, we say that there is a president. Just by seeing the car, we imply that president is there. President may not be there. Maybe the driver is or the chauffeur is just taking the car for some service. But seeing the car of president on road, we imply that there is president also. So for the time being, we identify the car with the president. Similarly, less intelligent people who want to see God immediately and do not have the qualification to see. For them, the material cosmos, for them actually, what is shown first, the gigantic material cosmos as the form of the Lord, although the Lord is within and without. So we will see in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam how Sukadev Goswami also brings that Krishna's feet are his Patal Loka and Krishna's waist is the middle planetary system, and how Krishna's hands, legs, everything material is imposed on the gigantic body of the Supreme Lord or the form of the Supreme Lord. So again, the clouds in the sky or the blue of the sky are better appreciated in this connection. Although the bluish tint of the sky and the sky itself are different, we conceive the color of the sky as blue and we start saying that the sky is cloudy because the cloud are there on the sky. But that is a general conception for the layman only, or you can say a buddhidhi. So now, yes, Praladananda Prabhu, go ahead.
Mataji, that word abuddhibhihi is exactly repeated by Lord Sri Krishna himself in 7.24, where he says, Avyaktam vyaktim apannam manyadamam abuddhe. So that's a connection I just thought of.
Excellent. Yes, abuddhya. We are abuddhya. And we just have our own speculation, our own material conception, and that is what we impose. So there, Sutta Goswami says that these abuddhis, it doesn't stop there. First, they want to put arop of material thing on the Supreme Lord. And they say that the Supreme Lord, some material form which they can meditate on, and they bring up this conception of Virat Purusha. But they don't stop there. They say that we also have gross material body. And they say that Krishna also has this gross material body in the form of Virat Purusha. But we also have the subtle body, like mind, intelligence, and ego. So the Supreme Lord also has the subtle body. So they don't stop there. They go beyond explaining that there is a subtle form also on that Virat Purusha. And they say, Ataha param yadavyaktam avyudha guna brahmitam adrishta shruta vastutvat sajivo yat punarbhava. So anybody wants to read the translation and then we can explain the verse.
Beyond this gross conception of form is another subtle conception of the form which is without formal shape and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond this subtlety. Otherwise, he could not have repeated births.
Thank you, Prabhu. So what Prabhupada is saying, since living being has this form of subtlety, that means they know that they have mind, intelligence, and ego. Otherwise, how can they have the repeated birth? If the gross material body dies, then that's it. End of the story. But it doesn't end there, because it has mind, intelligence, and false ego, and that brings it lot of impressions, and because of that their desires are yet not fulfilled, and therefore they are given another body. to fulfill their desires. And these all impressions that are there in the material mind, body, and ego is carried on to our next body. So, therefore, he's saying that just like the living entity has this, so they say that beyond the gross conception of this material body, there is also a subtle conception. Itat ataha param yad avyaktam. He has that subtle form also, and that subtle form is avyaktam. It is unmanifested, and it is avyudha guna brahmitam, and it is without any formal shape, and that is what is brahmitam. वो भ्रमित करते हैं. And adrishta means, and that subtle form is never seen, is unseen, and ashruta is never heard of, and it is avyaktam, it is never manifested. Vastutvat sajivo ya punarbhava. Just like the living entity, the jivas, even the Supreme Lord also has this subtle form which is without formal shape, which is ashruta, which is unheard, which is avyaktam, unmanifested, and which is adrishta, which is unseen. So here it is being mentioned by Prabhupada. Let's go through Prabhupada's purport. As the gross cosmic manifestation is conceived as the gigantic body of the Lord, so also there is a conception of his subtle form, which is simply realized without being seen, heard, or manifested. But in fact, all these gross and subtle conceptions of the body are in relation with the living beings. It has nothing to do with Virat Purusha. It has nothing to do with the Supreme Lord. The living being had his spiritual form beyond this gross material or subtle psychic existence. But actually, we see that the gross is material, even the subtle is material. Mind, intelligence, and ego is also material. It is also the material forms. The living being, the gross body and the psychic function cease to act as soon as the living entities leaves the visible gross body. In fact, we say that the living entity has gone. But who has gone? Do we know? That which is unseen and unheard. Because we cannot perceive the presence of that spiritual spark also. So therefore, we say that something is gone. In fact, we say that the living being is gone. Even when the gross body is not acting, when the living body is in sound sleep, we know that he is within the body because we have some symptoms like breathing, snoring. So somebody is in sound sleep. With all these presence, we come to know that life is there. So the living entities passing away from the body does not mean that there is no existence of the living soul. It is there, otherwise how can we repeat his births again and again? So just so that we can have that repeated birth, like Prabhupada normally says, what is death? Death is just changing of your garments, throwing away your old garments, accepting the new garments. That is what is death. Finishing off one life but starting with another life. Because we are still carrying those subtlety with us, those subtle impressions with us. And because we are carrying, so we think that the Supreme Lord also has, and we start imposing all these material things on the Supreme Lord also. So the conclusion is that the Lord is eternally existence in his transcendental form, which is neither gross nor subtle like that of living being. His body is never to be compared to the gross or the subtle body of the living being. All such conceptions of the body, God's body, they are imaginary. Again, Prabhupada saying, such conceptions that we put on the Supreme Lord, that are imaginary. The living being has its eternal spiritual form, which is conditioned only by his material contamination. So we all have a spiritual form, but our spiritual form is contaminated right now. So point is that Supreme Lord is never to be compared with the gross and subtle body of the living being. In this regard, in Chaitanya Leela, it is being mentioned, I just remembered that how there was one poet who came and he said, I have written a very beautiful poem or very beautiful verses in the glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he went to Bhagavan Das and he said that somehow please make some kind of meeting so that I can present this glorification of the Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in front of Mahaprabhu. But the condition that time was that anybody who wants to present their philosophy or their theory, they have to go through Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And at that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, I think so, or it was Sarup Damodar.
Swarup Damodar.
Sarup Damodar.
Swarup Damodar.
Yeah, he was Sarup Damodar Goswami, not Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So Sarup Damodar Goswami came to know that there is one poet who came and he has written all these verses in glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as soon as he heard one verse, and in that one verse he says that Jagannath, because Mahaprabhu was in Puri, Jagannath is like a body and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like a soul in that body. As soon as Sarup Damodar Goswami heard this, he said, what are you talking about? And he literally threw him out. He said, no, this is not a glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How can you impose your material thing on the Supreme Lord by saying that he has a body and he has a soul? So therefore he says, Jao Bhagavat Pado Vaishnava Sthane. He told him, Jao, pehle Bhagavat Pado, Vaishnava ke sang mein reh ke you should study Srimad Bhagavatam, understand the right conception, only then come and present it. So we cannot have any kind of implications of all these material things on the Supreme Lord. Then comes, okay, fine, we cannot have, but is there any way to realize that Supreme Lord? Yes. So the Goswami says, yes, there is a way. Yes, Divyangi Lalita Mataji, go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mataji, just going back to the previous verse, like when they say without formal shape, what is that meaning, Mataji?
Where it says without formal?
In Prabhupada's translation, without formal shape, subtle concept in the translation, Mataji, subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape.
So there is a conception and subtle conception of the body. The living entities has a spiritual body.
Sorry, Mataji, it's in the translation, Mataji.
Translation, okay. Without formal shape, it says avyuda guna brahmitam. Means avyuda. They say that there is a subtle form on Paramatma also, but it doesn't have any shape. It doesn't have any shape, it is unmanifested, it is unseen, it is unheard. But they have this conception also that the Supreme Lord has this subtle form. That is the meaning.
Okay. So it is their conception. It's a
That is their
conception of the
conception.
Abudaya.
Yes, that is their conception that the Supreme Lord also has the subtle body, but that subtle body doesn't have any formal shape. It is unmanifested, it is unheard, it is unseen.
Got it,
That's-
Mataji.
Yes, Saudamini Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. The same thing, Mataji. I also had doubt. Like the conception of the Lord's gross body is imaginary. You say, like
Yes.
his Virat Roop.
Yes.
But Virat Roop exists, no Mataji. Like Krishna showed it to Arjuna.
Krishna showed it to Arjuna because Arjuna was asking. And Prabhupada writes that it also brings us the point that Krishna is not limited. Okay, if he wants, he can do anything. So Prabhupada also in one of the purports in Bhagavad Gita mentions that if somebody else claims that I am God, then tell that person, show your Virat form. Because Krishna is not limited, Krishna can do anything. So this Virat form, this Virat Roop form is something which is imagine, which is the conception of this is imaginary. Yes, Krishna has shown. That's why I said Virat Roop is not imaginary. The conception that the yogis or jnanis they put on the material thing of the Lord, that is what is imaginary. So this Virat Purusha is not like other incarnations. Other incarnations like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Vamana, Narsimha, they have their own existence, their own loka in the spiritual world in Vaikuntha. But there is nothing like Virat Purusha. What Krishna also showed Arjuna is that in Bhagavad Gita he showed, you have already done that Bhagavad Gita, that what Krishna was showing, he was showing that all the demigods were praying and he is the one all in all expanded through the entire sky. And then he also showed his Kalaroop where all the Kauravas and even the party from Pandavas also were entering into his Kalaroop. So what is all this? This is something material. So anything that is material will not have any eternal form in the spiritual world. But because Krishna showed, so that itself explains that Krishna is not limited. So form of Krishna is not material, but the conception these yogis have, where they put that Patal Loka is his feet, and then thighs are his other Rasatal, Talatal, and then his middle planetary portion is his waist, and then upper planetary portion is his upper part of the body. This is what they try to superimpose the material things also on the Supreme Lord. Okay, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
And then
Yeah.
they don't stop even to the gross, but they say that he also has this subtle form also. Yeah, go ahead. You were saying something.
So this subtle form Krishna never showed to anyone. This does
No,
not exist at all.
yeah, actually there is no difference. That's why I quoted about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Where this is an aparad thinking that Supreme Lord has a form and has a subtle form.
Now I got. Thank you.
So then the question comes, is there any way to realize that Supreme Lord? Yes. Yatre me sad asadrupe pratisiddhe swasamvida avidyatmani kritehe iti tad brahma darshanam. So this is what is brahma darshanam. Brahma darshanam means the process of seeing the absolute. How can it be possible? Swasamvida. Swasamvida here Prabhupada says by self-realization. So by self-realization, and what is that self-realization? As Atma Sakshatkar hona. Or you can say, knowing about your own Sarup Gyan. Having that Sarup Gyan is what is self-realization. Or you can say Swasamvide. If somebody has that, then they know what is Sat and Asad Rupa, what is gross and subtle. And then they can have the real Brahma Darshanam. So let's see what Prabhupada says in the translation. Go ahead.
Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord.
Yeah. So that is, thank you, Prabhu. That is what is real Brahma Darshanam. That is what is self-realization. Having known our own individuality, at the same time knowing that the Supreme Lord also has its own individuality. Therefore, at that time, he sees himself and he sees the Lord also. He doesn't say that, okay, I get merged into that Supreme Lord and I become one with the Supreme Lord. That is not self-realization. That is not Atma Sakshatkar. That is not Swasamvida. Swasamvida is knowing myself as well as the Supreme Lord. Knowing the relationship. Who am I? Who is the Supreme Lord? What is my relationship with the Supreme Lord? What can I do so I can strengthen that relationship? That is our abhidya process. That is our process by which we can perform devotional service to strengthen our relationship, having that sambandha gyan towards that Supreme Lord. That is what is self-realization. So through self-realization, Sutta Goswami is saying that it is very easy to understand the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada writes, this is the difference between self-realization and material illusion. To know that temporary or illusory impositions of material energy in the shape of gross and subtle bodies are mere superficial coverings of the self. So first we have to understand our own gross and subtle body. What is our gross and subtle body? First we have to know about our own self. Then we can know about the Supreme Lord. पहले आत्म साक्षात्कार होना चाहिए, means realization of my own self, that who am I am a soul. I am part and parcel of that Supreme Lord. I am having all the qualities of the Supreme Lord, though qualitatively only, not quantitatively, but I am His Amsha only. My Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says. So first we have to come to that understanding that what are these coverings that I'm carrying? What is stopping me? Why I'm into so much of avidya that I forget my real constitutional position with the Supreme Lord. That is what is avidya. So when the jiva comes into this material being, first it is covered by avidya. So avidya, what does it do? Avidya makes him into the position of forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of the relationship that he has with the Supreme Lord. So first Maya, what it does, it gives the covering. Imagine you have a medicine, right? Pills. So the pills, they come in plastic bottle. Like you see, you sometimes, not all the pills, but try to understand that we have pills, the medicinal pills that we get on the over the counter in the market, in the pharmacist, chemist shop. So we have pills, and the pills comes in the plastic bottle, and that plastic bottle is also put into the paper pack, means the cardboard. So there is a cardboard box, inside there is a plastic bottle, and inside there are pills. So imagine that pill is like a soul, and that plastic bottle is like an avidya. So the soul is covered with that avidya, where the soul forgets its position as compared to the Supreme Lord. And on top of that, there is a what do you say? The carton, means the box, the box it has, right? The paper box is there. And that paper box is what is ahankar. So first of all, we are covered with avidya, and secondly, we develop some ahankar also, where we think ourselves that we are Ishwaras. So this is what Prabhupada is saying, that these are all the superficial coverings of the self, of the soul. The coverings takes place due to ignorance. Such coverings are never effective in the person of the personality of Godhead, because he is Mayadhish. He is the Ishwar of Maya. This Maya, which is illusionary energy, is giving all these coverings to Jiva. But how come this Maya can give these coverings to the Supreme Lord, where the Supreme Lord is the Ishwar of that Maya? He is known as Mayadhish. Knowing that convincingly is called liberation, or seeing the absolute truth. That is what is known as liberation. That when we know that what kind of covering I have, and these covering is actually stopping me to understand the Supreme Lord, is stopping me to become self-realized. This means that the perfect self-realization is made possible by adoption of spiritual life. And Prabhupada defines that self-realization. What does it mean? It means becoming indifferent, not accepting to the needs of the gross and the subtle bodies, and become serious about the activities of the self. In simple English, start feeding your soul. Okay, so yes, it is important to take care of our gross needs, our body also, but only to a point where the soul is fed properly. So that is what is self-realization. becoming indifferent to the needs of the gross and the subtle bodies, like what my mind is saying, where my senses are going, but becoming serious about the activities of the self, means feeding the soul. The impetus for activities is generated from the self, but such activities become illusory due to ignorance. So we know this, but because we are covered, we forget our real position. And by ignorance, what happened? Self-interest is calculated in terms of gross and material bodies. And therefore, whole set of activity is spoiled life after life. We make a full-time commitment with the Lord that I am not going to leave this material world no matter what. I will be engaged in this material world because sometimes my false ego is disturbed, sometimes my mind is disturbed, and sometimes my intelligence is disturbed. So some way or other, or sometimes my senses go here and there. So we make a full-time commitment with the Lord that I'm not going to leave this material world. I'm going to stay here forever. Chirkal tak we will be here. And then what we are doing? We are simply spoiling our activities, and especially we are not making the best use of this human form of life, which is actually the via medium by which we can become self-realized. We cannot expect all this from animals to get it. We cannot expect this from demigods because they are into so much of enjoyment. It's only human form of life. We have the mix of everything, sometimes sukha, sometimes dukkha, sometimes happiness, sometimes distress, which helps us to become self-realized, to understand our real position. But however, when one meets the self by proper culture, the activities of the self begin. So here you see SS self, all this is in small letters. That means here Prabhupada is talking about our own soul, Atma. So one who meets the self, one who meets अपनी आत्मा से जब पहचान हो जाती है, means to understand that I am not this body, I am spirit soul. Coming to this understanding, then the activities of the self begin. And what is the activity of the self begin means? Then the real activity of the soul begins, where the soul thinks that, yes, I have to now feed my soul and become indifferent to the needs of my gross bodies. Therefore, a man who is engaged in the activities of the self is known as Jivan Mukta, or liberated person, even in the conditional existence. So someone who understands this position, that these are all coverings, the covering of avidya, the covering of ahankar, that is stopping me to understand my real constitutional position. If somebody comes to that understanding, then that person will become self-realized, or Prabhupada says he or she will become Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means that we are in this material world, but we are not of this world. We get the understanding that I don't belong to this material world. This is not my home. This is my foreign land that I am in. My real home is with the Supreme Lord because I am His Amsha. Okay, that this perfect stage of self-realization is attained by artificial means? No. Under pressure? No. By some Veda Shastras or by some kind of jnana? No. But under the lotus feet of the Lord, who is always transcendental, means performing devotional service. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that He is present in everyone's heart, and from Him only all the knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness takes place. We all know this verse. What is that verse?
Sarvasya chaham radi
Just go ahead, Prabhu.
Sarvasya chaham radi sannivishtam matta smrutir gnanapohanam cha vedesya sarver aham vedyo vedant krut vedvideva chaham.
Excellent. Thank you. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Knowledge and the forgetfulness of Krishna is given by Krishna Himself. So when the living entity desires to be an enjoyer, The Lord covers the living entity with the mystery of forgetfulness. And thus the living entity misinterprets the gross body and the subtle mind to be his own self. They think, I am this body, this is my mind, this is my ahankar. And by culture of transcendental knowledge, when the living entity prays to the Lord for deliverance from the clutches of forgetfulness, the Lord, by his causeless mercy, removes the living entity's illusory curtain, and thus he realizes his own self. So it's Supreme Lord only. Because Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, Daivi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Durattaya Mameva hi prapadyante Mayam etam tarantite. How we are put into this illusion? Through the medium of Maya. Maya is the one who is putting into all these illusions, who is making us dance on the three ropes of mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, and we are like a puppet who is dancing on these ropes of Maya. But is she going against? No, she is Daivi. Krishna says it's my Maya and it is divine, it's Mama Maya. But it is very difficult to cross. Then how can you cross? Krishna says, Mameva hi prapadyante. Those who surrender unto me, then this Maya only will help you. That Maya who was previously covering us, putting us into illusion of considering ourselves and making us understand that we are Ishvara, that same Maya is now helping us to get rid of all this and go to the Supreme Lord. She will help us. Mayam etam tarantite. She will help us to cross this insurmountable ocean of miseries. And how she will do it? On the order of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the one. When we perform devotional service or Krishna consciousness, then the Supreme Lord only orders her Maya. Because he is Mayadhish. He can order Maya that you have to release all the clutches onto this conditioned soul. Because now this conditioned soul is a surrendered soul. So out of that affection, Maya is bound to hear his master's words. And therefore, she removes that curtain of illusion. She removes the living entity's illusory curtain, and then Aksma Shakshatkar happens, and then the one realizes his own self. He then, after realizing, engages himself in the service of the Lord in his eternal constitutional position, become liberated from the conditioned life. All this is executed by the Lord through his external potency or directly by the internal potency. So how that happens? Aren't these two potencies different? External potency works only in the material world. Internal potency works only in the spiritual world. So how come Prabhupada is saying that all this process of removing the illusion of illusory curtain that is being removed from the jiva, it is executed by the Lord. Either he can do it through external potency or directly by the internal potency. How is it that possible? Then
Mataji, a small clarification.
Go ahead.
You're talking about Maya. Is this with reference to Yoga Maya and Mahamaya, Mataji?
Yeah, previously, it was Mahamaya. It's actually the job of Mahamaya only who puts us into illusion.
The Yoga Maya is relieving us from illusion.
Yoga Maya helps us to come in the real constitutional position with the Supreme Lord. But sometimes this Yoga Maya also puts us into forgetfulness of Krishna. How that happens? Daivi, where he says that the devotees of the Lord, they are Daivim Ashrita, right? They come under the potency of Yoga Maya, like all the Vrajavasis. They were also put into forgetfulness. But their forgetfulness was that Krishna is not Lord, Krishna is my Sakha, my friend, Krishna is my Lala, my son, Krishna is my beloved, Krishna is my lover, Krishna is my master. We are having all that relationship. All the Vrajvasis are having those relationship with Krishna. They are also into forgetfulness. But even after getting forgetful into position of forgetfulness, their world revolves only around Krishna. Like you go and tell Mother Yashoda that your son is a supreme personality of Godhead, and she say, "What are you talking about? How can my son be the supreme personality of Godhead?" With one thunderstorm, he gets so fearful that he hides behind me and he covers himself with my sari. So how can you say that he is a supreme? Is this a supreme personality of Godhead? They are always in forgetfulness. Krishna carrying Govardhan, 7 days, 7 nights on his little pinky. And there, everybody is saying that it's because the cowhide boys were supporting with the sticks and Krishna was able to lift Govardhan. On his own, it's not possible. Mother Yashoda was thinking, oh, even if he is lifting because I have fed him very properly. He has eaten lot of makhan, lot of butter. Therefore, he has got all that energy. Ask Madhumangal, he will say, oh, this Krishna is able to lift Govardhan because of my Brahmanical powers. This is the mood of Rajvasis. They are also put in forgetfulness of who Krishna is, of supremacy of Krishna. But our forgetfulness of conditioned jivas is that we think that we are Ishwaras and Krishna is nothing. So that is also forgetfulness. But what Prabhupada is talking about is the forgetfulness that covers the living entity, the Vijivas, and that is covered by the Krishna's Mahamaya, that is material energy. But later Prabhupada says that when this curtain is lifted, then it can be done by the Lord through his external potency or directly by the internal potency. But how to understand?
Thank you very much, Mataji. That was really very clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madhuri. So then Prabhupada says, this is verse 34. Yada esho parata devi maya vaisharadi mati sampanna evati vidur mahimni swamahiyate. Yadi esho parata devi. So if, however, this illusory energy of the Supreme Lord, Devi Maya, means Maya Devi or illusory, or you can say external energy, Bahiranga Shakti, so many names. Maya Devi, when she Esho Upaharata, when she removes the curtain, basically she subsides all the miseries of the living entity. Vaisharadi Matihi, then the living entity comes in the real understanding, becomes Vaisharadi, means he becomes full of knowledge. So Vaisharadi actually refers, it can refer, two ways we can understand this first two lines. Yedi Esho Parata Devi Maya Vaisharadi Mati. So what are the two ways? First of all, understand what is the meaning of Vaisharadi. Vaisharadi refers to the Lord who is very skillful. Vaisharad. He is very skillful. And when the Lord reveals himself through his when the Lord will reveal himself to the jiva, how the Lord will reveal? The Lord will reveal only by the medium of his internal potency, because the Lord never interacts with the material energy. Okay, so what we are doing here, we are giving the answer to this last line where Prabhupada is saying either by external potency or by his internal potency. So here the answer is given. How? That he's saying that the Supreme Lord is Visharad because he's very skillful. Okay, so when he decides with his own mercy that here I am going to reveal myself to this jiva, then what he gives? He gives Vaisharadi Matihi. He gives the intelligence by which the jiva, he thinks of the Supreme Lord. That my Supreme Lord is my eternal master. So this when this happens only when the Lord decides that I am going to reveal myself. Spuruti eva. जब वो स्फुरुति होती है, means from your heart you will understand, but it is only through the mercy of the Supreme Lord. See, this curtain of Maya can be removed in two ways. Either Maya intervenes and removes the curtain on the order of the Supreme Lord, or the Supreme Lord himself decides that I am going to give this mercy. So if the Supreme Lord himself decides that I am going to mercy, he is the one who is choosing us, then what he will do? He will give us the intelligence. He will give us that skillful mati, that right intelligence by which the jiva thinks that, okay, this is my Supreme Lord and he is my master. So this is what is one understanding. Another understanding is that if Maya Devi removes her influence, Yadi Esho Parata Devi Maya, if Maya Devi thinks that, okay, now this person is eligible because I've taken enough test of this jiva, and now this jiva is perfect in coming close association of the Lord, then when Maya decides to withdraw her influence, then the Lord favors the devotee. And then when Maya withdraws her influence, then the jiva person thinks that that is also Vaisharadamati, means he will get the mercy that the jiva thinks of the Supreme Lord. So two ways. When the Lord gives the mercy, then the jiva thinks of the Supreme Lord. But at the same time, when Maya withdraws her influence, then also jiva understands about the Supreme Lord. He understands that now the Lord has done his favor to me. But this is done by external energy. But when the Lord comes and gives the mercy, then he is doing by the medium of his internal energy. Okay, but in both the case, what happens? Sampanna evati vidur. What happens? The jiva, he becomes the right recipient of Lord's mercy, and he becomes sampanna. Sampanna, Prabhupada writes, is he becomes enriched with the right mati, the right intelligence. And then such jiva, mahim ni swa mahiyate. That same jiva whose illusory curtain has been removed, either by Maya Devi or by the mercy of the Lord, then he becomes glorious in his own position. Why? Because he becomes worthy of worship. Mahiyate. He becomes worthy of worship because of his glorious position. Mahimni so mahiyate. That person becomes really glorious. Okay, anybody can read the translation.
If the illusory energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory.
Then he becomes situated. So because that situated in what? In his own constitutional position, and therefore he becomes glorious. So because the Lord is the absolute transcendentus, all his forms, names, pastimes, attributes, associates, and energies are identical with him. So there is no difference between Shakti and Shaktiman, because Shakti belongs to Shaktiman. So his transcendental energy acts according to his omnipotency because he is Mayadhish. The same energy acts as his external, internal, and marginal energies. Energy is only one. Krishna's energy is one, but because of the job that has been given to that energy, this energy is divided into Antaranga Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti, and Tatastha Shakti. Antaranga Shakti is internal, Bahiranga Shakti is external, or you can say internal is Yogamaya and external is Mahamaya, and Tatastha Shakti is the marginal energies that are we jivas. And by his omnipotency, he can perform anything and everything through the agency of any of his above energies. Why? Because he is Swarat. He can turn the external energy into internal by his will, and therefore by his grace, the external energy which is employed in illusioning those living entities subsides by the will of the Supreme Lord in terms of repentance and penance of the conditioned soul. So see how that same energy which is employed, the job of that Maya Devi is to keep us into illusion. But when the Supreme Lord decides, then even that illusion is taken away. Because that Maya, who is using us, who is actually employed to give us illusion, actually now is helping us to come out of illusion and understand our constitutional position. And the very same energy then acts, help the purified living being to progress on the path of self-realization. Previously, the same energy is giving hundreds and thousands of tests and putting us into illusion. And when the Lord decides and then ordered this Maya energy to remove the curtain of illusion, enough of test, then the same energy becomes, it helps us. First, she is the one who is keeping us away. Then she helps us to come closer to our Supreme Lord and helps us to progress on the path of self-realization. Prabhupada explained this through a very beautiful example. Energy is one, he's saying. The electrical energy that we see in this material world is one. The expert electrician can utilize that electrical energy for both heating and cooling by adjustment only. Actually, electricity is one, right? But when it is expertise in such way by that perfect or expert electrician, that it can be used for as an heater or as an conditioner, air conditioner, it gives cooling effect. Similarly, the external energy, which now bewilders the living being into continuation of birth and death, is turned into internal potency by the will of the Lord to lead the living entity to eternal life. And when the living being is thus graced by the Lord, he is placed in his proper constitutional position to enjoy eternal spiritual life. So, this is how we have our, yes, go ahead, the real constitutional position. Yes, somebody. Padmini Mataji, you want to say something?
Sorry, Mataji. I was just contemplating something. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. I thought that you have some question. So, after describing this by Sutta Goswami, so up till now, what we saw that first of all, he brought up this thing that how someone can be put into this, someone with a poor fund of knowledge, put this material and gross and subtle options also, portions also on the Supreme Lord. They superimpose all these gross things and subtle things on the Supreme Lord. But actually, the Supreme Lord is beyond. And then how to understand this? Then he says that when a person experiences and understands that no, understand the self, that even myself, for myself also this gross and subtle everything is material, then how can I impose anything on the Supreme Lord? Then the person actually realizes Brahman and gets fixed into his own constitutional position by the grace of the Supreme Lord through the agency of Maya. Now text 35, he's saying, Therefore, have this habit of glorifying the Supreme Lord. Engage in his devotional service. Evam janmani karmani hi akartur agnasacha varnayanti sma kavyo veda guyani ritpate. Somebody can read the translation.
Thus learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart.
So, after realizing that we can be situated in our real constitutional position only in doing devotional service, the learned people, those who understand this, they employ their entire time in glorifying the Supreme Lord, in describing his births and activities, which are unborn and which are inactive, which is indiscoverable also even in the Vedic literatures. Varnayanti sma kavayo. He is the Lord of the heart. So they engage all their time in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because it's only through devotional service one can situate oneself in its own real constitutional position. Both the Lord and the living entities are essentially all spiritual. Therefore, both of them are eternal and neither of them has birth and death. Even the living entities, we jivas also, we are not created. We are not, there is no death for the soul. So the difference is what? The difference is the so-called births and disappearances of the Lord, which are unlike to those of the living beings. The Supreme Lord comes with his own supreme sweet will and decides who will be his parents, what country he will take birth, what will be his activities. But that choice is not given to the jivas. We jivas are forced via the medium of the semen of the father to the womb of a mother, where we don't have the choice that whether we'll get a male body or female body, or whether we will be in which country we will be born. We don't have the power to choose our parents, our siblings, or our activities. Nothing. That is the difference. But the Supreme Lord, he has his own supreme sweet will. That time is decided when he will come and when he will disappear from this world. But the living entities who take birth and then again accept death, they are bound by the laws of material nature. But the so-called appearance and disappearance of the Lord are not actions of material nature. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvatah. Those who understand my activities and my birth to be transcendental, they don't go back from this world with a return ticket. They have only one way ticket. They only go and never to come back. And simply by meditation on such activities, one can attain realization of Brahman and thus become liberated from the material bondage. Just meditating on the Supreme Lord's name, glories, activities, forms, qualities is what is devotional service. In the Shrutis also it is said that the birthless appears to take birth. The Supreme Lord, who is unborn, he takes birth. The Supreme Lord has nothing to do, but because he is omnipotent, everything is performed by him naturally, as if done automatically. So that means the Supreme Lord harmonizes all the contradictions. He is unborn, but he takes birth. He has nothing to do with this material world, but he comes and performs various activities. So all these contradictions are being harmonized only by the Supreme Lord. As a matter of fact, the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all his activities are guhyam, are confidential, even to the Vedic literatures. Yet they are displayed by the Lord to bestow mercy upon the conditioned souls. That is the real reason that Krishna takes form. That is the real reason that Krishna comes and performs his leelas in this material world. Yes, Krishna comes to, what is that verse? Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya cha dushkritam, dharma samsthapanarthaya, sambhavani yuge yuge. Bhagavad Gita gives all these reasons. But the real reason is to give anugraha, to give compassion to the living conditioned souls, to bestow mercy upon the conditioned souls, that the Supreme Lord comes and performs his activities. We should always take advantage. So see, Prabhupada is saying, we should always take advantage of the narrations of the activities of the Lord, which are meditations on Brahman in the most convenient and palatable form. Because the narrations of the activities of the Lord is what going to help us to get free from all kind of material sufferings and reinstating our constitutional position. So 36 also describes about the qualities of the Supreme Lord. 6 qualities are being mentioned, but because it's already almost 9, I'll not cover. I thought of covering, but that's okay. We can cover it on Monday, or Tuesday. Myself or Preeti Vilasni Mataji can take over this section. We are only few more verses, and hopefully in the next session we'll complete this chapter. So next he will describe the qualities of the Supreme Lord, and then all these, and he will also explain that how we can understand that supreme powerful Lord, definitely by devotional service. So that all we will see in the next session that Sutta Goswami will explain. Okay, so what we will do is we'll stop here and let's see if we have any quick questions or comments, then we can take up. Yes, Saudamini Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you for the class. Mataji, in the beginning of today's class, you were mentioning that Amsha, they are Vishnu Tattva, and Kala, Avesh, they are Jiva Tattva. So when we heard in our previous sessions that sometimes the Lord comes himself as Avesh avatar. So
And
at
that time he is Vishnu Tattva only.
Oh, okay. I was
Because the Supreme Lord himself is coming. Sometimes he take the position of Indra, sometimes Brahma. So at that time he's Vishnu Tattva. Like for example, I'll talk about our present Vyasadev. He is a Shaktavesh Avatara, but also he is known as the literal incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So he is also regarded as Vishnu Tattva. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what we have to understand. Okay, dear devotees, anybody else has any questions? Okay, then we'll, yes, Narhari Prabhu, you have something? Okay. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Can you hear me?
There are soldiers and all. They also
Background noise is there, Mataji, Sindhu Mataji.
ocean. So they immediately jump and save them.
Can you hear now, Mataji?
You're in some class or what? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, Mataji. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sindhu Mataji.
Sorry, Mataji, my voice box is completely gone. So I had just one question about the different avatars, right? When Krishna manifests in different avatars, where is this coming from? When Krishna himself comes, he includes everything, right? All the avatars are in him, right? But when he comes, right, how does he come? Or at least there are two questions, right? There is a door through which he comes, that is Mahavishnu as a door, they say.
Not Mahavishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu.
Kshirodakshai Vishnu. Okay. All these avatars are actually in the heavenly planets. They're always existing, correct?
Not heavenly planets, in Vaikuntha Loka.
Vaikuntha, correct. So when they manifest, for example, if Narasimhadev manifests, right? Where is he? How do they come from the Vaikuntha Loka into the material world? Are they also coming through Kshirodakshai Vishnu?
Yeah, yes, of course.
Okay.
He's the doorway.
Okay. Okay.
Because see, all these avatars, they come when Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. If their enemies of Indra increases, then what happened? All these demigods go to Brahma. Brahma take all of them to this Shir Sagar, milk ocean, and they chant Purusha Shukta. And then from his heart, Brahma got enlightenment from Kshirodakshai Vishnu that this is the form next he's coming in to save Indra or to save the world from the miseries. So all these avatars are coming from Kshirodakshai Vishnu only. Actually, he's the doorway.
Okay. Okay.
And because Krishna is also coming through him, therefore sometimes Krishna is known as Avatar, but because it is Swayam Bhagwan Krishna who is coming, so he is also known as Avatari.
Okay. And when we say Krishna has all the avatars in him, when he comes, he takes all the avatars. It just means that he has the potency, right? It is not that they are going inside him.
It's just their potencies. Like explain that even when Krishna was in Vrindavan, it was not the Vrindavan Nandanandan or Yashodanandan Krishna who was killing all the demons. He was only interested in Rasa Leela and doing all the mischiefs or playing with his cowherd friends and all boys. But who was killing this job, killing of these demons, was this, Vishnu means our Yashoda, our Devaki Nandan. Because in front of Devaki, he came as Narayan form, right?
Correct. Okay.
So this is how
Thank you, Mataji. So I've heard different ways. That's why I wanted to confirm which is the doorway. Some people say it is Mahavishnu. Some people say it is Kshirodakashai Vishnu. So
it's actually Kshirodakashai Vishnu. Yeah,
Okay.
He's the doorway.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Sorry, my mic was not working at that time. I just wanted to follow up a question from Saudamini Sundari Mataji. So, like, if our Vyasadev, current Vyasadev, he's Bhagavan, right? Shri Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, is Vishnu Tattva. Then that means he must also have a Vaikuntha Loka where he resides eternally. Is that true?
I cannot answer that question because never heard of, but yes, Preeti Vilasni Mataji, she might answer. Go ahead, Mataji.
I'm just going to give a shot to this. I mean, of course, I'm just logically trying to answer his question. So just like sometimes we already read that when there is no Indra, then Vishnu, the Lord, he takes the position of Indra, right? For example, he took the position of, I think, Yajna or someone at the time of when there was no suitable Indra. So similarly, when there is no suitable Vyas, direct like a Vyasadev to be appointed, Vishnu himself takes on that role. So there is no necessity that everything should be mapped to the Vaikuntha. That is the understanding.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Preeti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Karanga Gopal.
Mataji, one clarification, like Varahadev came from the nostrils of Brahmaji.
Yes.
If I am correct.
Yes.
So we are again saying that the doorway is Kshirodakashai Vishnu. So like getting confused.
So yeah, externally we see like Narsimhadev, he comes from pillar. Right?
Okay.
For manifesting his Leela in this material world, Krishna needs someone. Like Krishna himself comes from the womb of Mother Devaki. So, or our Vamana Dev comes from Aditi. But why they are coming from Vaikuntha is through the doorway of Kshirodakashai Vishnu. That's how we have to understand.
Okay.
That when they are coming in this material world to perform Leela, definitely they need some medium through which they can come. Either through the womb of Aditi, or either through the womb of Devaki, or through a pillar, or through the nostrils of Brahma, or in the ocean as Matsya. So this is how they just come into being.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Okay, dear devotees, we'll stop here. Thank you all so much for your association.
वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हर ग्रेस कीर्तिदास सुंदरी
Sundari Mataji
की
की जय।
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.